Hi, welcome back to Everyday Behavior. My name is Dr. Marianne Shepard, and this is the third video on a series in punishment. If you have not already watched the earlier videos in this series, I'm going to encourage you to immediately stop this video and go back and watch those videos, because I want you to see, before we talk about these types of punishment, the negative side effects of punishment and also other additional strategies other than just punishment. So, in this video, we are talking about different types of punishment. A lot of times we go to timeout or grounding, but I'm going to present some additional types of punishment that you can implement that maybe you haven't thought about. So one of the types of punishment is called overcorrection. So what is overcorrection? Overcorrection is where the child is required to practice or complete the correct response repeatedly, not just once, but repeatedly. So let's say a child says, "No, you can't make me do that." Well, that's not what we want. We don't want them to yell and scream at us like that. So if they scream at us and say, "No, I don't want that. You can't give me that. I'm not going to eat that." So let's say they're refusing to eat something. You can say, "Oh, you need to say, no, thank you." And so then you can make them practice saying, "No, thank you," 3 times. And so if you don't want something, you can say, "No, thank you." So if they say, "No, thank you," say, "Okay, let's practice that. I need you to eat your peas." "No, thank you." Good. Okay, now I need you to eat your peas. How do you respond? "No, thank you." Now, do we want them to refuse their peas every time? No, we don't want them to refuse their peas every time. However, if they're going to yell and scream and throw their peas at us, we would much rather them respond "no, thank you" than to go through a tantrum about the peas. If they're running in the house, you can make them go back and walk 3 times. If they slam a door, you open the door and make them close the door softly 3 times. So it's practicing the correct response. Another example of punishment is called restitution. In restitution, a child is required to repair the environment or repair the damage caused by the problem behavior, plus restore the environment to a better state than it was before. So let's say they swipe something off the table. Okay, well, now you need to come and you need to put all of that back on the table, and you need to clean the table, or you need to pick all of that up and clean the table, and do the dishes. Or they maybe throw something and it doesn't hit the trash can and they just walk away. Oh, no, you need to come and you need to pick that up and you need to put it in the trash can, and then you need to take out the trash. So then they have to restore it to a better state than it was before. Maybe they refuse to clean up their toys, or they make a mess in the toy room or the playroom or in their bedroom or in the living room, wherever that was, and they shouldn't have made a mess. Okay, they need to clean that up, and maybe they need to vacuum when they're done. Okay, so it's restoring the environment to a state better than it was before. What's important about this is it requires them to do what they should have done to begin with, plus even more. And so it's more effort to do the wrong thing than it would have been just to do the right thing to start off with. Think about this kind of like community service. So you've got to fix what you did wrong plus a little community service. Contingent task. A contingent task is where the child is required to complete an unrelated task following a problem or a behavior. Sometimes one of the things that I'll do, instead of just putting a child in timeout, I'll make them sort beads, or sort little pom-poms, or sort little bears by color. So they have to do a sorting task. This is back in the day when you had to write sentences. That was a contingent task. So they had to go back and do something rather than just sit in timeout. It requires more effort, and you want to just be careful with a contingent task that you don't choose something that you want the child to do. So if you need them to practice writing, well, you don't want to use writing as a punishment, because it is going to pair whatever task you chose with punishment. And you want it to be something they can easily do, or something that doesn't require much effort. It's really just meant to be annoying. So it doesn't have to be a hard task. It needs to be a very simple task, like sorting, pulling something out of putty, what was that stuff? Came in the little egg, the little putty stuff. So pulling something out of there like little beads, make sure it's not a choking hazard if you're working with small children, and if your child is prone to putting stuff in their mouth and threatening to eat it, make sure it's not something that's edible. Response cost is removing a preferred item, activity, or privilege following a problem behavior. So a lot of times this is our grounding or toy timeout, things like that. But response cost can be any number of things. You just want to make sure that you have a specific number of chances before that is taken away, or it's consistently taken away every time. The last is response blocking. So this is physically intervening as soon as the behavior begins to prevent the behavior. So maybe if a child is biting, you put your hand there so that they can't bite. So you block the response. If they tend to run in the hall, you stand in front or stand right in the middle of the hall, and that blocks them from being able to run. So you somehow intervene or block the response from occurring. If they're about to throw something, you put your hand in front of it so that they can't throw it. You're not physically managing the person in this. So I want to be very clear that if you're doing response blocking, you are not physically holding down the person. You are just blocking the path of their behavior. Okay. So it's not, you want to be careful with this again, to make sure that you are not at risk or you won't be harmed. But you're blocking mild behaviors. Like if they're going to throw something, you're just going to put your hand there so that they can't throw it. If they're going to run in the hall, you just are standing there so that you're a physical barrier, so they have to slow down. There's no momentum there. If they're going to slam a door, maybe you, if they're not slamming it hard, you put your hand there. Just make sure your hand doesn't get caught in the door. So you have to just use common sense and exert caution with all of these that you're doing, to make sure that you're using good common sense and doing these things safely. That's all for this presentation. Please like us on Facebook and follow us on YouTube. And you can also follow us on our website at www.everydaybehaviors.com.